Very much today, if you were to help me welcome Steve Kiene. He's the Senior Executive Founder of Nebraska Global, eSellerate, and MindVision. We're going to talk a little bit about venture capital in Nebraska and more. Please welcome Steve Kiene.
Hopefully the microphone is tall enough. So I'm probably the biggest introvert that you'll meet, so it's always a challenge getting up in front of people and talking. But when I get a chance to talk about things that are important to me, it's pretty easy. So I'll tell you a little bit about Nebraska Global, what we do, and kind of why we do it. Start, I guess, with me, one of the questions I always get asked, were you born in Lincoln? Yes, I was born and raised in Lincoln. Lincoln's where I've chosen to make my home for the rest of my life. I think Lincoln's the best place for me to live. It's where my family is, and I want to help people that want to live here, young people, raise their families, whether they've moved away and want to come back or they want to stay. I want to help them have great jobs that they can have great careers and great opportunities. So the way we're trying to do that is through Nebraska Global. We best be described this as a software investment firm. You can call us an incubator, an accelerator. There's a lot of different things, but basically what we set out to do about 4.5, 5 years ago was to help technology startups, software startups, be able to have their roots here and to stay here. If you think back 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of sort of active venture capital in Lincoln, in Nebraska. There were lots of people, a lot of them in government, talking about things like brain drain and economic development and all these things we need to do. And you had a lot of politicians saying, we got to do this, do this. And all it really was a lot of talk. And I finally decided, I'm tired of hearing this talk. I'm going to do something about it. So I took my checkbook out, wrote a check for $5 million, started Nebraska Global. Went out and raised another $32 million, primarily from people in this community. Investments anywhere from $5 million down to $1 million. The people that are investors are people that you know. I'm not going to mention them by names, but they're people that built their businesses here, raised their families here, and want to see Lincoln thrive and continue to grow, as well as Nebraska. So very like-minded set of folks. So I really don't know much other than software. I've got a couple of office buildings, and as Robin would know, sat empty for a long time, so clearly I don't know real estate, so I stick with what I know, which is software. Building software companies is a challenge. The field moves very fast. I think back a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, and how different things were. When I got started back in 1987, there was no such thing as the internet. Email was something that only the most technically savvy did. Faxes were communications, and now the world has changed completely. Who would have dreamt of Twitter or Facebook? Yet that's something that probably all of us are familiar with and a lot of us use. Texting is another thing. So in building technology companies, you have to be very nimble, you have to move quickly, you have to adapt quickly, you have to try to guess what's ahead. If we're going to open a coffee shop or other types of businesses that I think are important and need to have, it's kind of prescriptive. You kind of know what you need to do. You need to be able to find a good space, low overhead. You need to be able to hire reliable staff. You need to provide a good product. Software, you really can't predict. Who would have predicted that Facebook would have succeeded, yet MySpace wouldn't have, for example? So how do we teach the people that are going to start these companies in the coming years? I think our traditional education, I would say, that there was well, education is broken, we need to fix it. I would say that really it's not broken, it does what it's supposed to do, but what we need is different education than we currently have. Now we're not going to change the school system overnight and make everything different, but one of the things that we need to do is educate people outside of the classroom. And that's one of the things at the heart and center of what we do at Nebraska Global. And we've got a fund of money that we can invest in ideas and people, but we try to grow people. We have a motto that we don't just build companies, we build people. That when we got started, it took about a dozen folks that I'd known over the years. They were older than me. Coincidentally, I started my first company when I was 17, And it was about age 30 before I hired the first person younger than me. Nowadays, everybody I hire is younger than me. So, but you know, there's a lot of press about the occasional, you know, amazing 1 in a billion. You know, Mark Zuckerberg started their companies in college and built these great businesses. It just doesn't really happen very often. You know, you just don't have the knowledge. So we kind of said, well, look, we're not in a hurry. We're not trying to build all these companies in a year or two. One of the interviews that I did when we first got started, somebody said, you know, what do you spend your time thinking about? And so I think about how we're going to grow and teach the kids that haven't been born yet. That's what we need to do as Nebraska Global. We need to build things for the long term. So in educating students, we started with working with the university, working with the Raikes school out there, you know, some of the best and brightest kids that are learning business and entrepreneurship and software stuff. We interned those students. Our first year of operation, we interned about 90% of the sophomore class. That was a lot of interns, 24 students for us. And it was at a time when no one would intern those sophomores. Now, the kids that are sophomores are getting internships for 18, 20 bucks an hour. The rising seniors at the Raikes school, they get internships for 30 bucks an hour. I mean, it's insane. That's kind of the world we live in. And what's happened is we have students that no matter really what their skill level, they can get jobs in the tech field. But you can't really build a business on, you know, just random people. You have to have high talent. So we take an approach where we'll work with kids at high school levels, we'll work with college level, we'll even work with elementary school kids. We try to teach them, you know, kind of the fundamentals of things, whether it's a third grader or a college kid. You know, every college kid is like, oh, I'm going to start a gaming company, or I'm going to build this, you know, great company, and, you know, I'm going to be like such and such company. We sit down and we talk about what's really important about building a business. You know, when it comes down to it, you know, you have a business, it's about money, you need to have revenue, you need to have low expenses, you need to have profit, all this stuff. But that's really sort of an outcome of things. What a business really is people. Business is nowhere without people. When I sold my first company, you know, everybody's like, oh, you're so awesome, and you do these great things, and you. And I said, I didn't do anything. It's all the employees that work for me that built the company. It's a bunch of people that work together, work really hard. I just happen to be the guy with the three-letter title. But, you know, every one of the businesses you're a part of is about people, you and everyone else you work with. And that's something that kind of gets forgotten in the tech field. It's all about software, build this cool thing, and whatever. And people don't think about building products for people. They don't think about, you know, growing people. So we've got to build companies different. You can't just invest money, here's a big check, we'll build your business. We've got to teach these young people how to build businesses, how businesses were built 30 years ago. You know, how Mark's family's business was built. It was built on, you know, one step at a time, which takes patience, which kids don't have nowadays. You know, kids want everything now, microwave everything in my life, my education, my job. We have so many kids that they come out of school, they come apply and say, oh, what do you want to do? Well, I want to run this thing. You don't know anything about this, but you want to run things. So we tend to pick the kids that probably aren't the top 90, the top 5%. We pick the kids that are sort of after that, the kids that have had hardships, the kids that have made mistakes and learned and grown, the kids that have had, you know, determination to move forward. At the Raikes school, one of the things I learned, these kids are so bright, their ACT scores are off the charts. The standard to get into the Raikes school now, most of the Raikes graduates that we hired in our first 3 years wouldn't have even gotten in. The intellectual capacity is huge in those kids. But that's only one piece of intelligence. And what found with those kids is they're so brilliant, they've never had anything that's been hard. Well, invariably, it doesn't matter how smart the kid is, somewhere in college, they hit a roadblock, they hit something that they don't understand. And it's amazing how many of those kids fold. Now you take the regular computer science students, you take a kid that hasn't had everything easy, and you look at how they will face challenges and adversity, and they try something, it didn't work, well, how am I going to figure it out? And they keep plowing forward. That's who we are. That's you know, as a community, as a city, as a state, we're people that just work hard, we're determined, we don't take no for an answer, we figure it out. You know, a lot of times I'll talk to students out in western Nebraska and I'll ask them, you know, how many of you are entrepreneurs? Well, none of the kids raise their hands. And I say, well, how many of you are in farming families? Well, of course, most of them raise their hands. Like, well, there you go, that's entrepreneurship right there. That it's about not being able to control everything that you can do. It's about having to deal with adversities, it's about having to overcome things and solve problems yourself. You know, that really is the community we have. And as we build businesses, you would think, oh yeah, we're getting the smartest, whatever. No, we're getting the hardest working, the most determined people. You look at the successful businesses in this community, you know, a lot of the people in those businesses are in this room, people like Joe. Those businesses, you know, and sure, no offense folks, but you know, I don't know that a lot of us in here would have been at the tops of our classes in grades. You know, back then, you know, grades weren't everything. And that building businesses with people that work hard, that treat people right, that have high morals, that's what we do. And then one of the things we get asked is, well, when you were looking at a business plan or somebody wants to pitch you an idea, what do you look for? And it's pretty easy. I look at the people. I look at the character of the people. I look at what they've done through their life. Have they overcome things? How have they faced really tough challenges? You know, have they taken shortcuts, or have they you know, taken the correct road? There's I would say about 14 businesses that we've funded in our time. Some of those have failed. You know, that's the nature of the business. And I look back at why those businesses failed. It's pretty obvious in hindsight, and it's really changed kind of how we approach looking at new businesses. But we look for teams of people, not just individuals. That people have to be able to work together. You may have a brilliant entrepreneur that has a great idea, but if they're not able to find 1 or 2 or 3 people to work with them, to follow them, to believe in them, yeah, maybe they're not the right person for us to invest our time and money in. We look for people that are trying to solve a problem for the long term, not just build something and sell it and drive a Ferrari in 2 years. You know, one of the things that I get criticized about what we do is, you know, well, you're never going to provide these 40x returns for your investors. I would say, guess what? Our investors don't care. They're not looking for a 40x return. I say that if I had gone around to the people that I pitched 5 years ago and said, I'm going to build this venture capital firm and you're going to get a 40x return, the people that put money in would not have put money in because they said, there's no way, you can't do that, no thank you. And we said, you know, we'll get you a modest risk-adjusted return on your money. We're not trying to build companies that we can sell off at the peak of their value. We're trying to get young people, instill the right values in them, help them get through their hard problems, help them build businesses that they can be proud of, that are here when their kids are growing up. You look at the successful businesses that really make up this community, and obviously by definition, those businesses are still here. They didn't sell. They didn't get acquired. They're still here. And we need to build more companies like that. They're my first 2 companies that I sold, you know, it got some money and they got acquired. And just today, I was looking at my last company I sold, eSellerate. Sold it to a company up in Minnesota called Digital River. Just looking at the prospectus from them, the company is getting bought by a private equity firm because they've kind of pretty much tanked. That's the end of the legacy of that company. There's nothing left from it. There's no building, there's no people, they're building products, that company's gone, and you know, other than me bringing it up here, nobody's probably ever heard of it. That's not what I want our young people to build. That's not what's going to build legacies for our community. But if we take the right people, we teach them the right things, they build the right kind of software businesses, you know, in 20 years, people can look and look at Lincoln and say, you know, there's 2, 3 dozen good software companies, whatever software company you'll be then, and that those businesses are pillars of the community. There are people that are at these meetings, the people that will be funding school functions, there'll be people that are leading this community forward, and that would be in addition to all the great things that we already have in this community. I think that Lincoln is a great place, but it can be even better. And one of the areas that we really are lacking is the tech side. And so that's what we're trying to build. But we're trying to build it the Lincoln way, the Nebraska way, not the Silicon Valley way. And that's something that kind of gets missed when, you know, I don't know, people like to talk about me, I guess, because they have long hair and it's a tech guy and whatever. There's, you know, for so many years it was, oh, it's a computer guy. You know, and now I'm finally getting like viewed as a business guy. I suppose it would help if I wore a suit. But really, I mean, I'm a community guy. I want to help build things in this community the way that works with this community. And software companies traditionally aren't that way, and so I'm trying to change that. You see a lot of, you know, companies that are fast growing and then they disappear, and people forget about them. That if you grow fast, you can sink fast. I think you need to grow, but if you grow smartly, pragmatically, you grow by hiring good people, you grow by interning young people and educating them and building them up, you'll get to hire them. One statistic that's kind of interesting, so I don't know exactly what the average salary of a graduating computer science kid is nowadays, but it's probably 6 figures. I know that in Silicon Valley, you know, that if you've graduated from a reasonable university and you got a good GPA, you'll probably go to work for a Silicon Valley company for $150,000, $160,000 a year. In spite of that, we typically hire kids in varies around $62,000 a year. And we get people to come work for us. We don't have a shortage of people. And it's because we've worked with these young people throughout their college career and before. They know who we are, they know the environment we have, the culture we have. They believe in what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And they want to be a part of building this community as well as building businesses. I think that's just, there's no newspaper headlines about stuff like that. That's just business as usual for people in the community. I'm no different than anybody else. But when people talk about software and tech startups and VC and all this stuff, I guess just know that in Nebraska, in Lincoln, you know, there is something that's different than anywhere else in the country. It's something that's being done with this high-tech stuff, the software that so many people say, I don't even know anything about software, computers, but what you're doing seems cool. And we're trying to do it the Nebraska way, the right way, so that your kids, your grandkids, you know, they can be part of something if they find computers interesting, and they can be proud of that, and that the values that second-generation business owners, family owners have in Nebraska now, we'll have that in software too. And that by adding technology businesses, software businesses in our community, that's only going to enhance our identity. I want to talk a minute about a program that we started a couple years ago in the public schools. So we started working with college kids, and we worked down to high school kids. And then we kind of decided, let's start doing some things with elementary school kids. So we started an after-school program at 3 of the elementary schools, picked the 3 poorest school districts. So we started working with the CLCs, the Community Learning Centers, and with an after-school program with basically at-risk kids to teach them the basics of programming. So we don't sit them put them all at desks and stand up in front and lecture to them. We bring a handful of people, we sit down with them with computers. But before we sit down with computers, we spend the first several times just talking about things, walking through things, having them act out things. That we're teaching these kids about programming, not because we're expecting them to become computer programmers and be the next, whiz kid, but because the way you teach them about programming, remember these are at-risk kids, it teaches them things about life. That we have them work in teams, we teach them about, here's a problem. How can you break that problem down? What are the different ways you can solve that problem? Can you enlist some help for somebody to work on your problem with you? And that it teaches these kids to have skills that their other classmates don't have. They may go home at night hungry. They may come to school with no coat. Their friends may have their iPods and iPads and they don't. But these kids, they're not sitting there playing on their iPads. These are kids that can build games for these things. They're not consumers, they're designers. these kids walk away after a semester with something that the other kids don't have. And the kind of change you see in these kids from that is they realize that, wait a minute, it doesn't matter if I'm poor and that family's rich, or that whatever the case may be. It's that I have something, and that's a huge thing for these kids. And it's no accident we started with the kids we started with and the way we did it. But these kids, you see them, they're the disrupted kids in class, and they're the kids that, we just got to babysit them after school until the parents pick them up. And these kids end up learning about programming. They come in excited. Hey, I thought about this thing last night, and they add this thing to their game. And that they are our future very much as call it the top of the tier kids. We started to expand the program to more elementary schools, but frankly, we kind of put out a call trying to get other tech businesses to get involved, and really nobody seemed to care. Other than out of the companies that we've invested in, the people that we have, those are the people that are willing to put in the time 3 times a week, spend an hour, go work with the kids nobody wants to work with, and it's made a difference in there. And I think that one approach was to get LPS to introduce this in the classroom. That's not the right way to do it. That this works because the people doing it, they believe in what they do. They believe that they can teach these kids these things. They believe that they can make a difference. Today's teachers just don't have that luxury. You can say what you want about teachers, good or bad or whatever, but you take a teacher, you take all of the constraints they have to work under. But really nowadays, the teachers are mostly babysitters. You've got so many disrupted kids in school. All they're trying to do is just get the kids through the day without somebody getting an eye poked out, get them ready to take the standardized tests. And the opportunity for a teacher to teach is really kind of long gone in a lot of ways. So we can try to fix education, but that really is the wrong approach. I think it's working with students, providing them opportunities outside of the classroom is the way to teach them the things that they need, teach them the things that we learned when we were in school, the things that we learned from our parents that they're not learning from their parents. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for things other than the tech side. Think about a kid that's in high school that maybe, probably isn't going to go to college, might consider it, maybe goes to Southeast. They don't know what they want to do. By the time they're a senior, they don't know what they want to do. I was that way. I ended up never going to college. But there's a lot of kids that, the pressure to decide on a career path is really, really great. And they just can't do anything. One of the things that we've done that everybody can do is be willing to intern kids. Be willing to say, okay, this is what my company does. And if there are students who are interested in this, then they can spend a couple of weeks in the summer with me, or they can come in and job shadow a couple of times to see what this field is really like. If this is something they really want to go to post-secondary education for. I think that can make a real difference. I'll tell you a story of something really disappointing. So at the end of this last school year, about a month prior, I sent an email to all of the principals and all of the counselors at the high school. I did the same thing the year before. I've yet to get a response back from anybody. What I offered was, we will intern any students that are interested in business, technology, or programming over the summer, and we will pay them. We just need to have contact with them. So something's broken here. And my wife used to be a teacher for 14 years, and she said, well, it's obvious. They just don't have time. Counselors are just, they're packed dealing with problem kids, that they don't have time for the other kids. We've got to find a way on our own as a business community to get engaged with the schools, to provide the bandwidth they don't have, to find the kids that are interested in figuring out what they want to do after they're done with high school. We need to do this because if there's a statistic, something like 80% of college students change their degree at least once. They don't know what they want to do. If we could give kids real opportunity to get a taste of different things, that would at the very least eliminate what they don't want to do. We've had kids that have come in an intern, and after about 2 weeks, you're like, this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't what I want to do. I'm like, great, that's the first step. So now what would make sense? There's the state has the whatever, intern program you can get money, subsidized interns, and that's great, whatever. And that was introduced the year that we had 24 interns, and we didn't get a penny because our students didn't qualify for technicalities. But regardless of what that stuff's available, the amount of money it would cost you to intern a few kids is nothing in comparison to what you can help do. And whenever people speak, they say, hey, a call to action. If everybody just did this, there'd be this impact. And of course, then nobody does it. But if you believe in the future of this community, you believe that our future is our kids, I think that there are simple things you can do here. It doesn't matter if you have a financial services company or a construction company or whatever the case may be. I don't know about auditors, but there's most kids would take a chance anywhere. Sorry, Joe. They would take a chance that, hey, I could go in and learn what something is really like. That would be a great opportunity for them. And it may not be for them, but it may be for a student that they know. And that if we could get, twice, half the kids who know what they want to do, if they can figure out this is what they don't want to do, we'll be that much farther ahead. So that, I think, is one simple thing that you can